Wagyu ka Khalsa, Wagyu Ji Ki Fateh. I am your host, Gurinder Paul Singh. I am bringing you guys another episode, a very special episode this month, talking and joined with some amazing folks. I'll let them introduce themselves here in a bit. I I think this is almost we're coming to. I think this is our 12th episode, so it's been almost a year since we've started this journey. Again, I just want to say thank you to all the Sangat and all the audience members that tune in every month, are showing the support. We greatly appreciate that, and we hope to take the podcast to better to keep growing every episode. We're only as better as we keep getting better. I always want to keep going forward, even though we got to this point. I There's a lot that I can still learn as a host, and also just as a person. So that's why I really want to keep going and make sure this podcast can reach more folks and just become a bigger platform for anybody to come and voice their opinions, because at the end of the day, all the amazing guests we've had so far are part of the youth, have grown up more or less in the California region, and they've had a amazing insight for having being considered the youth, because sometimes the youth gets pushed aside in most conversations in the community, and that's why this podcast was built, is to give those youth that are usually pushed aside a voice. And with that, I just want to introduce. I'll let them introduce themselves, but Jasmine, you can introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about yourself, like your um, your club as well that you're representing today. To today's episode, we are joined by members of other Sikh clubs at UC Davis. Myself representing the JMC here at UC Davis, and then Jasmine, you can introduce yourself and the club that you're representing today.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm a fourth year pharmaceutical chemistry major, and I am a co president at Sikh Cultural Association.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Harjeet, if you can, I know you're representing two clubs, so you can introduce yourself and give the rundown of which clubs you're will be speaking for today.
Sure. Vaiguji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguji Ki Fateh. My name is Harjeet, and I am representing Public Food and Sing Health Initiative, otherwise known as BPSHI at UC Davis. And then I'm also representing Nishkam Sewa at UC Davis.
Awesome, and thank you for joining us as well. Um, I We had SCA held a general meeting for all clubs now almost 2 weeks ago now. That is where I got the idea of this month's episode, was just trying to build. I think Davis is very unique with how they've had a very welcoming community for the Punjabi folks. I think that's something that really attracted me when I was looking to transfer a couple years back, when I was transferring from my community college. That was something that stuck out for me when I chose Davis. And when I got here at Davis, I could really see that it's not just something that's being said, but it's something that's real. I know some campuses is unfortunately that's not the case, and so that's why I'm just super grateful and super happy that you guys both took the time out of your guys' schedule to join and talk about not only your guys' clubs, but also help out and be on this podcast and help us out as well. Um, like I said, I this is the JMC Chronicles. I've talked about Jakara a lot. We had a whole episode about Jakara, so I'll be giving bits and pieces about JMC, but this episode is really for our guests to speak about their initiatives and their clubs. Um, and I just want to start with Harjeet. I just wanted to say, like, I know you're again representing two clubs, but if you want to start off with BPSHI, you can talk about like what's your board position and like what BPSHI is a little bit, like giving a little bit of info, of background info. And you can talk a little bit about like the overall like organization as well behind it, instead of just only the club as well.
Sure. So like I mentioned, I am the president this year for BPSHI. So most of us know us for our clinics that we do at the different Gurdwara in the Sacramento, Northern California region. We also do many health education events and presentations, along with other amazing awareness events for the community. So BPSHI actually started, like the whole organization of BPSHI started in 2010 or 2011, when a group of amazing undergraduates decided that they wanted to address the health of the underserved Punjabi community. So they started with mobile clinics at different gurdwara, and in honor of Bhagat Puran Singh Ji, and his selfless service, BPSHI came into existence with the mission of keeping his legacy of seva alive. So we provide basic healthcare screenings and general health, nutrition advice. Everything is student run. So all the students who are very passionate about health of the community, they come out to advocate together. We work to fight heart disease, diabetes through health education events. We also promote youth advancement. So we've done different bullying presentations because we understand that that's something many of our youth face in the schooling system here. We also educate our members as to how they can best serve the needs of the Punjabi, population. So many times we'll do social justice events, talking about issues in the community. And overall, BPSHI, it's just a wonderful platform to be able to advocate for the health of anyone, not just Punjabi folks, but we do, emphasize on that. And thankfully, and fortunately, we have a BPSHI chapter at every UC. We also have expanded to some CSUs and a few outside of California. So I'm very honored to be here today to talk about BPSHI and also Bhagat Puran Singh Ji.
Yeah, and please, the honor is all ours for having you guys come and taking the time out of your guys' busy schedules, because I know how busy it can get around this time. Like, I have midterms, so I know how busy I am. So I can only be so thankful for you guys' time. Jasmine, I'll let you talk a little bit about SCA and your board position and how SCA came to be a little bit, and like maybe talk a little bit about like the organization behind it as well.
Hi, so as I mentioned before, I am a co-president at SCA. And at SCA, we're kind of just a club that tries to bridge the gap between the Sikh and Punjabi community on campus. So we do a lot of cultural and religious events to kind of have people have their like sabbachar, but also have like, religious events and be connected. One of the reasons we came to be, especially with Kirtan nights, is like the closest gurdwara is in Sacramento. Not all of us have cars or able to go, and most of us obviously are not at home, and we can't celebrate holidays or spend time with our family and connect with our culture. So it came about to meet that need. Our parent organization is United Sikh Movement, which also like um, they're the they're the parent org for other Sikh student associations. So we'll have conferences with them, and overall, it's just a very collaborative environment with all the other Sikh student associations at the other UC, CSU, and out of state campuses.
Awesome. I think and then Harjeet, if you want to talk about the other club that you're representing and talk a little bit about that club and your involvement in that club as well.
Definitely. So the other club is Nishkam Sewa at UC Davis. Nishkam means desireless or selfless. So this is a community service organization on campus, and we primarily focus on the Sikhi principle of seva, giving back to the community. I actually started the club with my twin brothers. I'm the co-founder and also the current vice president. So some history about why Nishkam Seva. In 2019, so this was before the pandemic, we were thinking of finding a way to bring awareness about a nonprofit based in India called Nishkam Sikh Welfare Council. And we also wanted to find a meaningful way for students on campus to give back not only to the local community, but also the global community. There was always something inside of me that we're doing so much for people here, but I'd love to also somehow help the youth there, or give back to the people in Punjab and India. So like I said, I first learned about Nishkam Sikh Welfare Council in actually 2017 during a high school, during high school when we went out to the Gurdwara, and I saw their stall there. I saw all their sevadars, and most of them were elderly, and they were still so determined to find a way to help the cause for this nonprofit. And something that really stuck out to me was the fact that they advocated for seva irrespective of caste, religion, or creed. And I think that definitely symbolizes something that we've learned through our religions or Sikhism. And it really stuck out to me. So we wanted to bring that same theme and passion here at UC Davis, definitely connecting with the youth, seeing that there's so many people who are passionate to give back to society. And that's when Nishkam started. So like I said, right before the pandemic, we actually ended up doing our first official year with members online. So we're very excited to be in person this year and actually start doing more in-person events. So that's a little bit about Nishkam, and our parent organization is Nishkam Sikh Welfare Council.
I didn't know that you were a co-founder. That's something I just found out, which is like is awesome, right? I think that's really awesome. I think for JMC, I can speak a little bit about what Jakara is. If you haven't listened to our all about the Jakara movement podcast episode, it'll be listed in the description. So please go and check that out. You'll get a lot more info about what Jakara is as a whole. But Jakara is a nonprofit organization in California that helps not only collegiate students into becoming leaders, but also high school students. Me personally, I was in SHSS, which is our Sikh Honors and Service Society. We had, I think, an episode 2 episodes ago where Gurleen and Amrit had joined me, and they're two that had just graduated. So it's a very like Jakara is, and that's just one aspect, right? That's me speaking my personal. But Jakara does a lot of work outside of that, and especially in COVID-19 times, giving resources to our community is another big one, because not only did the Punjabi community not know how to battle COVID, nobody knew how to battle COVID, and I still think people are still figuring that out, right? So we try to just wherever we can help, we try to help, and that same goes for our JMC here at Davis. We try to help out wherever we can, and also we help out other clubs. I know last year there was a lot of we collabed a lot with a lot of clubs last year. I know SCA invited us to so many cool opportunities last year, and we're so thankful. And again, I think that's something that makes Davis stand out. It's just all the clubs here want to help each other, and they're supportive of one another. And I think that's really key to building something. And that's why this I mean, honestly, this episode is only like can prove that even more. It's just how much there's a community within the community here at Davis, right? So Harjeet, you can talk. I wanted to dive a little bit into like BPSHI, because I'm from Sacramento, and I actually was a part of a BPSHI workshop that was held at one of the Gurdwara around my house. So that was my first time interacting with BPSHI. Just dive a little bit into like how the workshops go and like what those workshops are, and like what BPSHI does, like a little bit more hands-on approach in terms of that. If you understand what I'm trying to ask. For me, I think that was the first time I saw something like that happen, and seeing my parents like go through it. It was like it was really funny for me, but I also was like, this is very like crucial for our community. So if you want to just talk about like a little bit more like hands-on approach what BPSHI does, because I think it's really awesome personally, the work that they do.
Definitely. And I absolutely agree with you. That's what drew me to BPSHI when I first started a few years ago. But like you said, so BPSHI is definitely hands-on in two aspects, the mobile clinics and the workshops. So to start off with the workshops, we do different workshops on different health-related topics. I'm guessing you might have seen the exercise workshop where we, facilitate all the elderly and all, the children, anyone who wants to come out to try out different exercises. We talk about how to do them correctly, why you should do them. Oftentimes, just simple stretches are, underlooked in our community. And we really want to emphasize the daily, everyday habits that people can adapt in their lifestyles to avoid long-term chronic illnesses in the future. So all the BPSHI, volunteers will come together, prepare a presentation. Then we go out to the different gurdwara. We talk to the committee members if we're able to do a presentation on that day. Typically, they're either Saturdays or Sundays, so we do them on the weekends. And it's very fun, very interactive. I know the elderly love it. They love to be with the students. The children love coming out too. The other one that we do a lot is the bullying presentation. So I think that's very impactful and powerful for our community because there is such a high incidence of bullying in, Sikh youth. So we talk to them that, they're not alone in what they experience in schools. We try to keep it interactive. I know in the past we've done like a little skit, so we've acted out a situation, asking children to identify what's wrong in the situation, how would they react in the future. So those are some of the workshops we've done. We are definitely looking forward to doing those more this year because of the pandemic. We weren't really able to come out. So I'm excited for that. And then in terms of the mobile clinics, which a lot of people see us at the mobile clinics, we take basic health screenings, so vitals such as blood pressure, blood glucose, oxygen saturation, BMI. And it's also really fun. I've served as a scribe a couple of times and registration assistant. So I've been able to talk to, like I said, many of the elderly. You find out a lot about their, life history. They love sharing, talking about, how they've come to America. So it's very, very enjoyable, very hands-on. I hope that answered your question about the interactive element.
Yeah, no, like again, I think that's really awesome because I saw it firsthand, and I was
Yeah,
just like, it's just so cool, because it was something that I'd never seen before, right? And it was like, even though there were like basic stretches that like like me growing up here, I knew like the basic stretches to do, but like seeing like my parents go through that, it was a little bit like more like, okay, this is not just basic for everybody, right? And I think
yeah,
that's
oh
something
yeah.
that's like really important. And I think that also like the you touched upon like the bullying aspect of like our community. Like there is a big issue of bullying, and I do in the future want to do an episode around that a little bit more, because I think that's where a lot of like mental health issues arise, and I don't think either or are addressed properly in our community, which is unfortunate, because I think bullying, like for me, I I didn't keep my case and my surup until I was a senior in high school, and
Mhm.
that was again, I wanted to do it for a long time, but because I was scared into the bullying aspect of it, I was like I didn't want to deal with that, and so for me, I shunned, I was scared for so many years, not even getting bullied, but the fear of getting bullied, right?
Mhm.
So I just think that's very like another key aspect, and I know like there's a lot of like young kids that suffer through this, and I think that's really amazing that you guys do that, because I don't think some parents don't understand what like that kind of those things kind of happen. They think like, oh, they go to school and like nothing happens to them at school, but it's very much a prominent thing. And it's amazing that you guys do that. And I think yeah, it's for me, like even me speaking about my personal, it's like it's tough. So I can, and I'm 21 years old, right? And so like I can just imagine a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, or a 12-year-old trying to like even put their struggle into words at that age is just even more difficult for them. So um I just wanted to say that. Jasmine, I just wanted to turn it to you a little quickly. You touched on about like Kirtan nights, and I know the closest Gurdwara to Davis here is West Side Gurdwara, is I think geologically the closest one. And you touched upon like the Kirtan night is like trying to bring that aspect of like, okay, if not everybody can make it out to the Gurdwara, we can at least try to connect with Bonnie in some aspect, and I think that's a really like amazing thing. And if you want to talk a little bit about like how those go and like how those events came to be, and like how they are, hopefully, again, I know like last year we were in COVID, so it was difficult to do those in person, but like how those are gonna be, how those go actually.
So for our Kirtan nights, typically during a normal year we host them at West Village, but this year we won't be doing that just because West Village's like theater room and all of that is closed. So we'll be hosting them on campus. Our Kirtan nights were initially made when around 10-ish years ago, when they realized that a lot of students can do kirtan, and a lot of other students want to listen to kirtan and have that like sangat mahol in a sense. And so essentially our kirtan nights, they're twice a quarter, and we'll have like our refreshment or our langar is generally pizza. We have had like moms sometimes make dal jol for us, stuff like that. But it's just about 2 hours of Rera, Kirtan, Anand Sahib, and then we do our das. And it's just trying to unify our Sikh community on campus, unify us as a Sangat so that we can all sit there. And then afterwards, people talk about their classes, their midterms, what's going on. It provides a community safe space that almost like at a gurdwara where like the uncles all sit after drinking cha and talk about lives. We as students sit after Kirtan night and talk about what's going on, what's happening, and any help we need. We actually do have one coming up. But like you said, during COVID, we couldn't do them. We actually did have an opportunity to do a cross SSA Kirtan night that we did with Sac State and then um, University of Washington. So that was really interesting because we were able to cross state boundaries to do that Kirtan night. But yeah,
I think so you said the next one will be, you said Tuesday.
Tuesday,
So that would be, I believe, what's the date?
the 19th.
Okay, so Tuesday the 19th. I'm sure you guys post about it on your guys' Instagram, which will also be in the description. But also, if you guys can make to that, I will try my best to make it to there. If you're in Davis location, I definitely recommend going because I just think it's a good way, even like now, especially with midterms coming fast. It's just a good break to have from just staring at your notes or staring at just constantly thinking about school and stuff. I think it's a great space, and it's amazing that like that was the goal and the objective, and it's just like it's turned into such an amazing thing because like even before I joined here at Davis, I was obviously talking to a couple friends that are already here at Davis, and they were telling me about it, and it was just amazing to hear that those types of events are being held because I think you talked about a little bit about like SCA's goal of trying to bridge the gap between the like Sikh as our religion, but also like Punjabi as our culture, trying to bridge that gap, which I know that that gap exists, and it's like very hard to like bridge those two things together. But I think this is an amazing event to try to link those two together because I think like when you think about like Sikh and Punjabi, you almost think of those two things almost as hand to hand. And I think for some people, like college can be like a very difficult time, especially like moving out, and especially like now, like you said it right. The nearest Gurdwara is very far, like not far, but it's pretty far from here. And if you don't have a car, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to try to go there. So like bringing that some aspect of Sikh to the campus and holding events like that is like it's crucial. Um, and Harjeet, I just wanted to come back and ask you about like what are some events. I know you said Nishkam is a very new club to UC Davis, and I know like last year during COVID it was a little bit difficult to do some in person. But like, what is like a typical event that Nishkam wants to do and like wants to do basically? Um,
Yes, okay, I'll take that on. So I guess I'll share a little bit about the goals of our club so that it gives a better picture of how we operate. So like I said before, the goals are to serve both the local and global community. So everything we do is student-run service projects, fundraisers. So we have fundraised for Nishkam India or other nonprofits in the past to keep their projects funded. We also organize professional development workshops. So we've had, leadership workshop. We invite guest speakers from the community. Currently, we operate as two teams. So we have the local service team and the global health literacy team. So the local service team will do projects ranging from our tutoring program, which we started last year during the pandemic, realizing that many parents might be struggling with their students at home, getting them to adjust to Zoom school. We started this tutoring program. We had about a dozen students enrolled, a dozen tutors. It worked out really well, and it was nice to give back to the community in that way. And then the Global Health Literacy Team, we work directly with Nishkam India to teach different health education topics and bring awareness to students right now from Sri Muktsar Sahib, Punjab. And we hope in the future to expand more projects for the global community. In terms of, what is something that we're looking for in this year. So we definitely want to do some more service events in person. So, longer distributions, going out to homeless shelters or even animal shelters, giving back in that sense too. In the past year, we were able to do our own 5K fundraiser called Nishkam's Positive Start to 2021. So it was a way of, bringing the community together, especially after the pandemic. And like I said, we've also had a variety of different guest speakers. So Malika Kaur from the Sikh Family Center came in. We had different women Sikh professionals to come in and inspire students who are considering STEM fields, especially, women in our community. Dr. Jasmine Singh talked about mental health in the community. And then, like I said, we had the Nishkam tutoring program. We also worked on a mental health initiative, which we are planning to continue on for this year. So basically, Nishkam projects can range from anything online to in person. Obviously, we did the online nature, but we are very, very open to anything. Of course, we just keep that main theme of service and selfless service from Nishkam Sikh Welfare Council.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing, right? And thank you both you guys for sharing. And I honestly think, and I can talk a little about the JMC, our Jakara movement chapter. One of our events that we started last year is this podcast that you guys are all listening to this right now, and which is for me again. I had this idea 2 years ago. I didn't get a chance to start it until I got to Davis and joined JMC, and I was able to give. I was given the necessary tools basically to start. And so that was something that we started last year, but we also hold discussions. Again, I am a big advocate for creating safe spaces for people, because I just feel like in the Punjabi community that doesn't exist at like some certain extent. Like you just can't be open about your feelings if you're a core or a sing, right? If you're a sing and you try to go into a safe space and try to talk, you're almost like told to like, okay, why are you opening up? And like for cores, it's like they can't open up because it's looked down for them to like not look strong. So it's like there's this for us and for JMC as a whole, we try to create these discussion and spaces for folks to come in and just talk about what they want to talk about. I know last year we did a specific one around the Kisan rally for some people, and the Morcha is like for some people to open up about that. We don't know like each individual person's family and how they're struggling through those through what was happening and what's still happening to this day. So it's just like that was a great space for folks to just come and one get knowledge about the what's happening, but also just talk about how they feel, right? And we can dive a little bit more into like last year's projects. That was actually the next thing I was going to go dive into was just I know last year with COVID-19 and the pandemic is difficult for everyone. For me, again, my personal story, I transferred to Davis last year, and my first year at Davis was all on Zoom and all online. It was difficult, right? It was something brand new to me, but also like transferring to Davis was also brand new to me. I was trying to learn the quarter system, but like the quarter system online, which is like even worse. So it's just I know like last year was a struggle, but I think I can speak for the JMC again. We tried to do as much as we could. We tried new events. We tried new avenues. Again, this podcast is a prime example of trying something new. Last year, we even though it was the pandemic, we in a safe manner we created care packages for the children's hospital here in Davis, and we give care packages to the hospital because they're also going through so much already, and on top of that, with adding COVID, it's just like gets even worse for them. And then around the November time, we had such a solda is when we get together, we prepare food, and then we take it to downtown Sac or anywhere, and we try to give back to the homeless or the ones that need it the most. Around this time when it's cold, getting a hot meal and hot food is sometimes a struggle for them. So that's why last year, even though it was the pandemic, we try to do our best. RG, I'll start with you again, and we'll start with BPSHI again. Just talk through a little bit of like a couple things that BPSHI did last year, things that maybe were new that you guys tried out last year because of it was the COVID time, but like other events that you guys put on.
Sure. So like I mentioned before, we weren't able to do any of our clinic screenings in person. So as a result, we didn't have any of the mobile clinics. We do partner with a lodge clinic, which is actually another clinic for the Punjabi population. And we have our members go out to a lodge clinic at Capital Sikh Center. So fortunately, they were still running, and we had some, board members who were able to go out. So there was that element of our clinics that we had going on. But primarily, most of our work was for the committees. So we have 5 committees: the Health Education Committee, the EMR Committee, Finance, Follow-up, and Social Justice Committee. So to touch on a little bit of what some of those did, the Health Education Committee, we worked on presentations on different health topics. We actually partnered with SCA in the beginning of the year to do a mental health presentation. So just talking about mental health during the pandemic for students. It was a safe space for anyone to, join in to hear some tips about how to take, care of oneself during this time. We also did, EMR work. So our EMR committee worked on analyzing data trends. So we had our clinic data. So it was really nice for them to use that time to actually look at what, health trends are in our community. What should we focus more for our health education presentations? Finance, we always have fundraisers. Fundraisers are always really fun because we can give back to the community. We also use those funds for our clinics. And then the follow-up committee, they made some new projects. So one was sending out little postcards to our patients who come out, and it was just like some reminders and also just a nice way to think of them. So they were able to reach out to that population and check in on them. And then the Social Justice Committee, they did a lot of work for the farmers protest, getting that. I remember our social justice lead had gotten that published in the AGGIE newspaper and getting, more information out there. They also did some literature reviews on social justice topics that aren't really talked about in our community. So just laying that foundation so that this year, even if we are back in person, we have projects that our committee can work on. And then we ended the year with a BPSHI banquet, which was fun. So we had an opportunity for our members to hear from the doctors who help out, with their mobile clinics or a lodge clinic. And it was just a nice way to conclude the year online.
Yeah. I just want a quick follow up. You spoke about they're like the 5 subcommittees of BPSHI and all the amazing events that each one of them and like the projects that each one of them do. You also mentioned a lodge clinic. If you don't mind, if you can share a little bit more about that, because I was at the general meeting that SCA held for all of us 2 weeks ago now. And that was something that stood out to me because I honestly before then didn't know that the clinic like was existed. And I think this is like that clinic is a very important thing and should be talked about and should be out there a little bit more. Just because I didn't know it doesn't mean that nobody knows it. So if you just want to talk a little bit about that, go ahead. Because I just think it's an amazing thing. I just want you to touch upon that a little bit more.
For sure. And I agree with you. It is definitely an amazing clinic, amazing initiative. So a lodge clinic was started a few years ago, actually, when I started UC Davis my freshman year. And it was started by, I believe, some BPSHI volunteers and the prior president. So they laid the foundation to have an on-site clinic because BPSHI, as you know, we do mobile clinics. So we take all of our stuff, we go out to the Gurdwara, we make our tables, our stalls. Versus a lodge clinic is, at Capital Sikh Center, there's one site for people to come in. And that's, what the goal is so that patients have one place where they can get help versus us, we go out to reach out to the patient. So we're providing care in 2 different ways. And their main mission is to define healthcare from a Sikh perspective. So they work with dedicated volunteers who bring their own unique ideas to enrich their vision of healthcare and create relevant projects for the Punjabi speaking community. Like I said, they are, they've existed for about 3 to 4 years, I believe. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I remember. And we have volunteers from BPSHI go out to a lodge clinic. So that's probably why you might not have heard of it, because we work as a partner with them. And I know now they're working and expanding to recruit their own committee. So they're definitely doing some amazing work. And like I said, they're an on-site clinic at Capital Sikh Center. So anyone's welcome to come in. They have clinic on the last Saturday of the month, every month from 6 to 9 p.m.
Yeah, when I said that I didn't know, I was talking about like just in general, because I think for some folks it's like going to the doctors is sometimes scary because it's just like the language barrier and just sometimes it just doesn't work out in terms of just going there. Like even my parents, they sometimes have a struggle to going to the doctors because they just don't know like how to communicate what's wrong with them effectively with their doctor, and that scares them because they're just like they're gonna have to go through all this and pay the fees and everything and not even like get better at the end of the day. So I think like having a clinic that's set for Punjabi folks is like an amazing resource. And I think it's a resource that should be expanded on as much as possible. And so that's why I wanted you to talk a little bit more and expand a little bit more on that. But I'll toss it over to you, Jasmine, now to talk a little bit about SCA's last year, in terms of like, again, being online didn't help any of us, but how did SCA make the most of it, and what were some takeaways and some events that you guys took from last year?
So, last year allowed us to collab with a lot of cool clubs. Like we collabed with BPSHI to do the mental health discussion, and I personally found that really helpful. Like the little tips and tricks really helped get me through like studying and sitting at my computer for 9 hours. We also hosted a Kirtan night with Sac State and University of Washington that was over Zoom, and it was really interesting because we had Kirtani from Philadelphia and California, Washington, just all over the country. And it was like over 100 people just sitting like in this virtual little Zoom chat listening to Kirtan all together. And I think it was a very nice experience to see all this youth out there together. We also did focus a lot, like our social media team, and getting word out about like the farmers' protest. We worked a lot on like amplifying, making flyers, having our club members be at those rallies, and just trying to spread word just in general, like with anyone we knew. And so that was the main thing. Another thing that we did was our Varda Shota program, which is a program we host every year for first and second year to be mentored with the third or fourth year. And I think during COVID, this was especially important because a lot of transfers, a lot of freshmen didn't get that support that they normally get on campus. So our Varda Shota program, when we paired them with their mentors, most of them said that they did get help. They got to talk to someone about tests. They got to talk to someone about study habits, which they couldn't because they weren't in person. And then towards the end of spring quarter, we had a discussion with Gurpreet Johal, Jagtar Johal's brother. And if anybody isn't following his brother on Twitter, I would recommend you do, just to get word out about the case and everything. But we did hold a discussion with him, and it was very, very informational. I would say that one takeaway from that is that we cannot stop talking about Jaggi. We need to keep talking about him in order to help him get out of prison. And then our last thing that we do, which is something we do every year, is our senior gifts. So it was really sad because we normally give them out our last year night, and we couldn't this year. We had to mail them out again. But we love giving back to our seniors. Like you guys do such a good job. Like you did a good job. You graduated. Like you know. So if you're a senior this year, remember to sign up.
I think that's like amazing, and I just want to like the one thing that I want to highlight is just the um the amount of activism that I think happened last year, because everybody was online, because everybody was sitting at home, and you just go on your phone a lot, or you just on your computer and you're online a lot. There was a lot of activism shown by a lot of clubs in terms of trying to spread awareness about so many different issues. And I think that was especially key because in that day of it, like last year, it could have been all swept under the rug because of like the limited amount of press that things get, especially in India. And on top of that, because it's COVID, it's obviously there's rules and regulations, right? And even here in United States, because of COVID and being rules and restrictions, there's so much that we could do to try to raise awareness. But as all of, I mean, even I'll touch a little bit about JMC. JMC, we held, again, like I said, we held a discussion about solely about the Kisan Morcha, the farmers' protest, but also we tried to make it to almost we tried to make it to every car rally that happened, and try to give any events that were happening, try to show up there, because as as many people can show up, the better, because that actually shows numbers, and that shows that there's actually people. There's more than just a handful of people that are upset. There's a lot of people that are upset. So just showing numbers at the end of the day does go a long way, but building on that is where the difficulties come. Is like, how do you take, okay, we did the Kisan rally, like what do we do now? What's the next step? And sometimes that's kind of just nobody tries to pick up the next step. And I think with coming back on campus a little bit more, I think every club wants to try to take that next step and build activism, not just only for the Kisan Morcha, the farmers' protest, but also other issues in our community that need addressing and need more coverage and just be out there a little bit more. But I'll throw it back to you, Harjeet, just to talk about Nishkam Sewa. And I know you touched on a little bit about the 5K run that you guys held and other events. Just anything else that stood out to you, being like a co-founder of the club and seeing like where it was going last year and like how much you guys did last year. What stood out to you from the club perspective, basically?
Sure. So I definitely think that Zoom was actually very helpful for us, even though we weren't able to do like, I guess, the traditionally planned in service in-person Seva events, like, giving out langar or going out to shelters, but we found other ways to impact the community in a positive manner. So I had talked about the health literacy team that we have, and we started a Nishkam Health Ambassadors program. So I really found that to be a meaningful experience for myself and for anyone who's part of that team or who joins this year, because we work directly with students in India. So you learn so much about their lifestyle. It's like, we had like little buddies or pen pals for, that 8-week period that we had the program running. Everyone who's in the program gets a stipend for participating, and it really benefits those students because they do come from lower backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. And it was just very meaningful, I think, because they show so much respect. They really care about the program, and to know that there's someone out there that appreciates our hard work and our passion for service, it really meant a lot. So we were able to do one batch over the pandemic. Everything we have for the program is student made. So we had members last year help make pamphlets, flyers, videos, and we were able to do one batch of students earlier this year, actually 2021. So we started in January, ended in I think February or March. And we are actually now in our second batch of students. So we have about 30 students in India who joined from Sri Muktsar Sahib, Punjab. It's, like I said, very fun to just meet new people across the globe. So that's one of our projects that worked really well over the pandemic. And then I think like another thing that really stood out to me was just being able to work with people like other Nishkam volunteers to give back in, India also, because we really wanted to help the farmers, realizing it was cold. So we had a blanket drive for all of them. With the support of the, the community, the Sangat here, we were able to raise about $1,500. And we actually were in contact with one of our board members' family member who was able to go deliver them out personally. So we knew that the money was going where we wanted it to go and that we had an impact there. And then wildfire season got really bad, to start of the pandemic. So we wanted to do something for that. And we put out, boxes at different gurdwara. We were able to collect all sorts of supplies. We had personal kits made, and then we delivered those out to different shelters. So those are some of the, events that we did over the pandemic. And also just smaller things, like we did a letter writing program for seniors at a senior care home in Davis. Although we weren't able to expand, much more outside of the pandemic for that program, but I just wanted to share that, we're always welcoming new ideas and any sort of way to impact the community. And then actually to also end, because I know SCA and Jakara was also part of this, we collaborated with Sikh clubs to raise money for the COVID crisis, if you all remember that. So that was really cool. Like, I think there was like 6 Punjabi clubs on campus that came together, and I think that was very successful.
Yeah, I was gonna touch. That was gonna be the next thing I kind of talked about, just because I just wanted to cap off like us recapping last year with stuff that we did as a collective, because I keep saying this and I keep repeating myself, but we do have a very special thing here at Davis where everybody works together and works as one. I know that fundraiser. I think honestly every fundraiser that was taken place last year, we all collaborated, we all posted about it, we all collected funds. The one that Harjeet was just talking about was the COVID crisis one, was when oxygen was not being readily available for those that were struggling back in Punjab and India. And so all the clubs here at Davis, we decided to come together and try to raise as many funds as we can to try to give back and try to help that crisis. And I think that was honestly I think that was our one of the last things that we did as at the end of this year, because I believe it was like May, June-ish time. So that was almost literally the end of the year for last year. and it was just an amazing way, in my opinion, to end the school year last year was just coming together as one big collective and helping out those that really need it, especially people that need it back in Punjab and India. I know we focus a lot of people here in Davis and the people here in Sacramento area in California, but also giving back to Punjab and giving back to India. Like you guys both highlighted those two things, and I think that's very key as well, is to keep in mind is that there are still people, as much as there are people struggling here, there is people that are struggling back home, and we can't forget about them. I just want to say, like, now diving into maybe the future or the present, really. Harjeet, you can start again with BPSHI and talk about what are some events that might be coming up here soon that BPSHI is going to hold, or any events that you guys have planned for this year that you want to share about today.
Yeah, so right now we're actually in the process of recruiting new members, application process, interviews. So we don't have anything planned for the next few weeks. Like I know that SEA has their youth night, but we do have, bigger picture events planned. So once we have our members, we will be doing our mobile clinics. The plan is to do 2 to 3 mobile clinics this quarter. We still have to finalize, the location, everything. It takes a lot of behind the scenes work with the professionals, with the committees at the Gurdwara. But the hope is to do the, the local Sacramento ones, the West Sacramento, Bradshaw, maybe Roseville. So if you all see us out there, feel free to stop by and say hi. We also are planning to do our fundraisers. So every quarter we make our, our members engage in some sort of fundraising event. So that will happen for this quarter. We also do our outreach events. We invite speakers to discuss the health of our, community. So like I said, we don't have anything specific planned yet because we're still in the application process. But now that we're back to being in person, we will definitely be doing more of these events, in person and not online on Zoom. But I think, like I said, we're very, very excited to be back for our mobile clinics because it's the best part about BPSHI, in my opinion, and to really be able to, talk to all the Sangat members. It really warms, I think, all of the volunteers' hearts.
Yeah, and I think hands, because of just, again, last year, COVID being online, going back and actually trying to interact with the community and just being hands-on is just going to be refreshing for so many people. And definitely can't wait, because again, like I said, the first time I ever heard about BPSHI was through my parents going through the basic exercise workshop. So that's really cool, and I can't wait for all that. Jasmine, in terms of a SCA, I think we've all talked about the Kirtan night that's coming up on Tuesday. Just one last time, you want to just tell where that's being held, what time, and then any other events that might be coming soon after, or even later in this quarter or this year.
Yeah, of course. So the Kirtan night will be Tuesday 7 to 10 p.m. in the Student Community Center in Meeting Room D. So that's gonna be on the 2nd floor, and if you can do Kirtan, we'd love to have you there. Our next event is going to be like a vegetarian barbecue social at West Village on October 26th from 7 to 10 again. And right around that time, we have a deadline for our Vadda Shota program. So if you are a transfer student or first year, please apply to be a Shota. If you are a second year transfer or a third, 4th year undergrad, please apply to be a Vadda, just to help provide mentorship to our students. In November, we will be having a discussion. I believe it's on social justice. It will be on a Saturday, so keep a lookout for those flyers. But yeah, those are the events that we have planned out.
Thank you so much for sharing. Before I throw it back to Harjeet to talk about Nishkam Sewa next, JMC, we just held our first general meeting earlier this week. To everybody that showed up to that and came up to that, we really are thankful, because just to see the amount of people that did show up, and even for the general meeting that SCA held, just seeing so many people back together, it was surreal, because I was just like, oh my God, there is such a big population of Punjabis here at Davis, and just seeing that in person instead of seeing that on Zoom was just mind blowing a little bit to me. It took me back a little bit when I was about to present at our general meeting. I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. But in terms of events, in November, we are planning to have a discussion the topic is yet to be decided, but the discussions, like I said, are discussions that we have about topics that are not being talked about in our community. Maybe that's mental health, maybe that's alcoholism, or that might be any other like activism or youth voices that or gender equality and core empowerment. There's a lot of topics that we can discuss, and we would love for as many people to come to those and just create a safe space. Again, unless we talk about our mental health, for me, I can like last year was very tough, and I've had years prior where like mentally it's been tough, and until I just let it out, for me personally, it's just I can't like continue sometimes. So if by all means, if you're one of those people that just has to have just let it all out and just have a space where people can care and listen to you, please come to those. And again, every month we post an episode for the JMC Chronicles. So if you do have friends that you might think that are interested in listening to podcasts, especially again these topics. I know this episode was talking a little bit more about just the community building here at Davis and the clubs here at Davis, but all like there's episodes that we've like last episode we talked about the Punjabi courses, which in 1 year of being offering, there's already an intro to Sikhi. There's already building, the next steps are already being taken. So I definitely recommend sharing it with folks if you enjoy it yourself, and I think other people will enjoy it as well. But Harjeet, I'll pass it to you just to talk about Nishkam Sewa, events that might be coming up here soon, or events that you guys have planned for later this year.
Yeah, so Nishkam Sewa applications are actually still open. They close tomorrow. So we will be also going through the application process in the coming weeks to, just finalize members to see who's interested in joining. However, like I mentioned, so our Nishkam Health Ambassadors program second batch is happening right now. So once our members are part of Nishkam, they will be running the program for us. So that's something for anyone who's interested in working with the global population. I highly recommend joining the health literacy team for that reason. We also really want to continue our tutoring program because we saw the impact over COVID, and we just want to reach out to all those families where parents might need that additional help with their student. So one of our plans is to reach out to the West Sacramento Charter School and to see if we can, form some sort of alliance or collaboration so that students, the Punjabi students there can reach out to us if they need tutoring services. So that's something to look forward to. And in general, like I mentioned for BPSHI, we also do have like one fundraiser per quarter, a social, a general meeting. Of course, since we're still recruiting members, we have to yet plan the dates and exactly when those will be, what they will be on. But now that we're in person, we also hope to do, one big Seva event per quarter. So something in person, like I said, it might be a longer distribution. It might be going out to the shelter. Also just based on, what's going on in the world and where we see that we can help out in any small way.
Yeah, I think that's amazing for both of you guys. Again, all the clubs that we're representing today, a total of 4 clubs. I think the biggest thing just to take away is this: all of our clubs, we want to give back to our communities as much as possible. And I think here at Davis, again, we have collaborative like environment to where we help one another achieve those goals. And I think I say this for all of us is that if you do have any ideas for any, I know Harjeet, you just talked about how Nishkam Sewa is very much driven, like the programming is driven by the members. So if you do have ideas that you want to share and have, especially if you're like a freshman and if you have an idea that you think could help out here at Davis or in the community as a whole, feel free to go to any club that you feel comfortable with taking the idea to. Don't just, if you're a part of one club, don't just, if you think that there's an idea that SCA can take it on board and try to make, by all means, like go out there, reach out and have that happen. Don't be afraid. That's the one thing I'll give as my personal advice to folks. It's just you won't have an answer until you go out there and actually look for an answer. So don't think that you have, like, don't prejudge a situation and give yourself an answer, because you honestly sometimes you can be right. And I've been right when I've doubted myself and given the answer of self-doubt, but most times I've been wrong. So please don't be afraid. Please, if you have any ideas, please share them. I think that goes for all of us. And again, for us, for JMC, follow our Instagram page. That is where most of our information comes. I'll be getting your guys' information for your guys' clubs, and I'll be adding all that to the description along with all the other links. So please, if you're on YouTube, please click the description, and all of the links for all of the how to reach out to these clubs and also how to reach out JMC will all be in the description. So please check that out afterwards. And again, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for all the amazing support and all the amazing love. Being in person has been amazing. But I always wanted to say, like, all JMC events will be COVID safe. So if you have any fears about that, please, we are trying to do our best to be COVID safe as we will. And I think all of us are, because we just read I think that's just a simple basics that all of us are going to take on. But before we do wrap up, I just wanted to if there's anything you guys want to talk about, any final remarks or anything. If not, then we can just call it there, because I know we've been going on for a while now. You guys have any, Harjeet? I know you just unmuted, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, that like I absolutely agree with you that it's really nice, the community that we formed at UC Davis, and of course Nishkam, BPSHI would love to always collaborate with SCA, JMC, any other Punjabi club on campus. But feel free to reach out to any of the clubs, like Gurinder said, and we're more than happy to have you be part of our community.
Yeah. With that, I think I'm just going to wrap it up and say thank you, everybody, for listening. And again, we're available here on YouTube if you're watching the video version, but we're also available on Spotify, Apple, and Google. If you want to turn off your phone and still listen, that is the best avenues to go with that. And we also, like last episode, I had announced that we do have an Instagram page for the podcast itself. That's where we'll be doing a lot of the information for the podcast directly on there. So definitely please go and follow that and stay up to date on there. But without that, I just want to again say thank you to our amazing speakers and our guests that came, making time in your guys' busy schedules to join and talk about your guys' clubs and just share your guys' passion that you guys have to give back to the community and be a part of your clubs. But with that, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.